Yeah.
You guys are too kind. Too kind. Look at all you guys out there.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Oh, my God. It's time to celebrate because this is episode 9 of Skills Pay Bills. So basically, this is 9 episodes, which means we have 9 lives.
9 lives?
Yeah, so we're still here.
Yeah.
And we're going to start like we always do, straight to the point.
Yeah.
What's up? We're going to talk about what we're doing right at this very moment. And so we're going to start with what's up, and I'll let you kind of talk about, what are we doing right now? What is actually up?
So right now I'm just kind of hanging out here with you, but
Same.
We've been working on the authentication process of like how to authenticate things and how we want that to look like, all that.
So to back up just a little bit, authentication. Mm-hmm. Let's start it off there.
Okay.
So what is that and why is it important to what we're doing?
So basically like making sure that like whatever we make, we want to authenticate it by really having like a certificate. Like we want to give you like some kind of like certificate where you could have, but there's also going to be like a label inside of it that says, hey, this is like an original Sew Loka piece. So we really want to make sure that people are getting value for like their products, like we know that obviously like we've only been doing this for like a year and a half, but we know how much value we're going to increase over the next year, over the next 2 years, over the next 10 years. So we really want to make sure that the people that have been getting these pieces like now can like hold on to them and then they'll have a lot of value to them later on. So,
but isn't it just enough to buy the jacket because you love it? Why would you need the extra authentication process? Why?
So for me, like, it's like, it is one of those things where it's like, there's going to be knockoffs, and I feel like obviously there's a lot of like bigger brands that do that authentication thing where it's like you would be able to tell like, hey, this is an original, this by like this kind of thing and this kind of thing. So for us, it's like we really want to make sure that we're giving people that value of not just like you have to look for, hey, this day Claudia was sewing with this like kind of thread or whatever. We really want to make sure that there's a full on like label inside that has the date when it was created, how many of those were created, and then I'm actually going to sign each one of them. So just kind of doing something like that. And then like the certificate, that authentication certificate is going to have like a full on, like it'll probably be like something like smaller, but it's going to have like a full on like description of things, and maybe not a description of the item, but like when it was made, and just kind of like going back into like how they would authenticate quilts is like really inspirational for me, because the way that they were authenticating quilts back then was that they would say, hey, Manny created this quilt on this day and he lived in San Diego with his wife, Claudia, and daughter, Ice, and and it was like a full on like tying that person into like other people, so like that it creates more of like this story where you could be like, oh, there could be 2 Claudia Bazunskis, but there's only one that has a daughter named this, or there's only one that has like a husband that has this name or whatever. So really like authenticating it like in like an old school documenting kind of thing is like something that really excites me, because it's like obviously like sewing has been around for a really long time, and like that really inspires me. So that kind of way of authenticating it like is also like really fun, and just kind of like getting to know like that person for who they are, as opposed to like this is just like a garment that we made and this and that. So, and
why do you feel that these garments or these pieces that you make are going to go up in value over time? Why do you feel that?
So like I've always felt that like I was going to be successful, like ever since I was like a kid, like I've always known it like in myself that like I would get to like a point where it was good, where I was going to be in like this kind of like situation of like just a lot of success, and to me, like I see like that kind of like heading into that direction. And so for me, like it's really important to be able to basically like have like these pieces that we've started making, like when people didn't trust us or didn't believe in us, or they were like, hey, this is just some girl that's making some stuff. So it's like we really want to have something where it's like, you know, the supporters that have supported us for a really long time, they have something where it holds so much value. Because it's like, for me, like, I know that I'm going to, like, my stuff is going to be worth a lot of money. So it's like, I really want to make sure that the person that is holding something that I've made is also going to understand that, you know? And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's basically like a step up of like a thank you, like hey, thanks for supporting us during like this time where it was like we didn't know where it was going to take us, and like now that we're like really have like this really clear vision of it, like we could really start to kind of like form it and shape it and basically thank people for that. So,
and right now the plan for authentication is just with the tags that are inside of the garment, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically the name of the garment,
yeah,
your name, the date it was created.
yeah.
Is there anything else that would be on there?
So it's basically like the tag. So it's gonna have like the business name. It's gonna have the date it was created, how many were created. So if it was a one of one, it would just be like one of one, and then like I'm gonna sign it, and then it's gonna have like my printed name on it. So, and then that's gonna be stitched onto.
And then for some of these products too, like just recently you did like the red unicorn jacket that was made out of a blanket. Now we take it a step further because all of those one of one pieces, we actually document the making of it.
Yeah.
So would you be okay with in the future, along with the authentication tag, if we also were to send them, if they purchased that one of one piece, they would get the authenticity, but they'd also get all of the documentation of it as well. They would get the video documenting the building of the jacket. So you would have the jacket, and then always you would see how it was actually constructed too.
Yeah.
So that's something else that we definitely have a unique position that we offer because we film all of it, the making of all of it.
Yeah. And I feel like we've always talked about it where it's like, I feel like documenting the process of anything that you're creating, especially like something where it's like, this is what you're starting, like, you know, even if it's like a podcast or if it's like, you know, like you're writing a book or whatever, documenting that process is so important because you see the progress within yourself as like a person of how you're working faster, how you're working smarter, how you're all that kind of stuff. So for me, like being able to document that process is really important because you could catch yourself where it's like, hey, I'm this isn't as clean as I would like it to be. Like, how could I like make it a little bit more refined, you know, and being able to go back and like see how your work has like how much progress it's made. Like, I feel like that's a really important role in like documenting the process too.
And do you care why a person buys one of your pieces? I mean, do you care as in, does it matter if they're buying it because they genuinely love the piece and they want to wear it and they could see themselves in it, or if they're buying it just because they see some resale potential?
I mean, like for me, like, look, ideally, like I would like for someone to like buy it because it's like they like value like how much work went into it, like how how that product or item made them feel. You know, it's all psychology behind all that kind of stuff. Like, how did that make you feel? Like, why do you want it? Why would you spend that much money in it? You know, and it's like, for me, like, I would want someone to have like that kind of emotional connection as opposed to like just being like, you have no emotional connection to something and just kind of, you know, it's like, yeah, like support the artist behind it, but it's like, I see my stuff as like pieces of art, especially with my one of one. So it's like if someone's buying it, like just to kind of like be like, I could flip it and make money off of that. To me, it's like you don't really respect the artist behind that.
But that's why I'm bringing that up, because that is that's a huge part of the resale market.
Yeah.
You know, so that by authenticating and everything like that, we also have to be prepared that that does bring along that element of, as well, of people that may not have a strong connection to the clothing you make or the art, but they just see the potential in it going up in value.
Yeah. And that's totally fine. Like, look, if you're going to like resell it and all that, that's cool. Like, you know, it's not going to make me not want to make stuff anymore. You know, it's like, this is like my life. Like, it's not going to make me be like, I'm not making shit anymore because whatever reason, you know, it's like in an ideal world, yes, like you would want people to value it for like, you know, the time and the energy and like what kind of emotional connection you have to it. But it's like, dude, if I had a fucking painting that was worth this much and I fucking needed that money, like, I'm going to fucking do whatever I have to do in order to like make sure that I'm like surviving. So it's like, I don't there's no shame in that.
And what gets an authentication tag and what doesn't? Are these Guadalupe jackets that you make and reworking and stuff like that, are they authenticated, or is it just the one-of-one pieces that you make from scratch?
I think ideally we would like to authenticate like everything, but I think that they will have a different kind of authentication kind of mark on them as far as like something that's going to be one-of-one. Because I feel like obviously that's a rework, and the rework, like, it holds like only enough value. Something that's like made from start to finish, it holds more value because it's so much more rare, you know? So I feel like that's kind of like something where it's like I kind of like struggled with, where it's like how do you hold them evenly, you know? So just kind of thinking about those things is like really good, just to kind of get your mind where it needs to be. But I think they'll hold different kind of authentications.
And what's going to be the first product that we launch this with?
So we're working on the authentication. I think we have to like tweak it just a little bit more. We're going to get them printed, all that kind of stuff. And so as soon as we get it, I think we should be getting it within like the next 2 weeks, because it usually takes a week to like get all that stuff going. And then once we get it, like it's going to be like a one-of-one. Like the ones that we're working on right now, those are definitely going to be on like the one-of-ones, all that kind of stuff. And I really want it to be like an authentication tag that like looks like part of the design, as opposed to like you're just kind of like, what the fuck is this thing, you know?
So the tag is part of the jacket or part of it. It's not like something separate.
Yeah.
Okay, because sometimes I know COA, certificate of authenticity, sometimes you get like a separate certificate.
Yeah,
with it.
we'll do that too, but I'm saying like there's going to be a tag inside of like the jacket or whatever we're authenticating. So there'll be like a little tag inside of it, but you'll also get like a piece of paper kind of thing.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
So that kind of, that's our authentication thing that we're definitely...
And we've been working on that for like a really long time. Like, I'm just kind of like, dude.
But
like,
that red unicorn jacket you made definitely sealed the deal with it, because it was just so fucking, it was like a unicorn.
I didn't, you know what? Like, it's so crazy because it's like a lot of the times I'm like cutting stuff and I'm like, okay, I really hope that like people could see this vision, and I really hope that like, because you could see it in your head and you're like, oh my God, this would be so good if like we could basically like have it to where it looks like exactly how in my mind it looks. And a lot of the times you're like, it's not happening, And so I'm glad that it did play out the way that I wanted it to, and like that it looked exactly how I like envisioned it, which I'm really, really happy for. But I wasn't anticipating as much like excitement for it, and like everyone was really like happy about it. So I was like, oh shit, okay, like, which is crazy, because sometimes you think this would do really, 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 really well, and then it doesn't, and then you're like, this one's not gonna do as good, and then it does, and you're like, what the fuck?
It's hard to predict.
Yeah, it is hard to predict.
And when you ask the person that bought the red unicorn jacket why they bought it, they basically said they had that instant reaction when they saw it, that it reminded them of their childhood. It reminded them of a blanket that they had.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to connect with some people.
Exactly. And for me, like, I love the whole, like, I want to create things that, like, they also have some kind of, like meaning to me. Like, I don't want to just make shit because I'm like, I'm making shit because I'm making shit. Like I want for it to make me feel some kind of way. Like, I want it to either be like aesthetically pleasing, or it reminds me of something, or, there's something behind it like that. Like, I don't want to just make shit just to be like, I'm just making shit, It's like, I want for there to be like that kind of feeling behind it, So yeah, I was really happy that like she also had like this connection to it, like how I had a connection to it. And I feel like that really like, people, once they have like a connection, they're like, oh my God, I totally need this. And she looked really good wearing it. So,
and that blanket, that red unicorn jacket was originally a blanket.
Yeah.
Right? So you found it as like it was just a large blanket in the thrift store and everything like that. And just when you saw it, did it immediately pop out to you like, I need to, you saw the jacket?
Yeah.
You knew that?
Because I knew, like, I was like, because I've had a blanket like that, right? Like when I was like, I think I was like in middle school and I was like, damn, this is a sick ass jacket, a fucking blanket, And so I had something like that. And I, because it's like, it's not too thick and it's not too thin. And I was like, this would make like a really good jacket if we didn't line it. Because once you line it, it kind of gets a little bit bulkier depending on like what you line it with. So I was like, this would be just perfect, like not lined. And so, yeah, I was like, I'm going to make a jacket out of it. And I love that jacket style because like, I just feel like it's long enough. It has like pockets, like it just, I don't know, for me, like it just makes me feel like really good, like wearing like a jacket like that.
Cozy.
So yeah, it's very cozy. And when we were taking pictures, like you were freezing and I was like, I am not cold. I am not cold. But yeah, I right away, like I saw it. I actually, that day that I went into the thrift store and I was just kind of like I automatically now what I do is like, I just go directly into like like where all the blankets and all the sheets are. And I just go automatically into that. And I saw it and I was like, yeah, I'm going to make something. And I think I got like about like maybe like 4 different blankets during that trip. And I was like, I'm going to make something out of this.
So you can go to thrift stores and find a lot of these blankets and sheets?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. And they're all vintage?
Some of them are. Some of them you could tell that they're just kind of like not. But I try to like just like look for something that has like a very unique kind of like feel to it, like look, all that kind of stuff. Because I feel like even like now they do like the retro kind of look. So it's not vintage, but it's like, it's mimicking like what vintage looks like. And you could tell like with the fabric, like it's more polyester and like it's more like plasticky. So I try to stay away from that. Like I try to just do like more of like that vintage kind of like feel.
And so this upcoming month, April, is that basically going to be a lot of these blanket to jacket drops? I mean, how many of these are you going to make?
Yeah, so I have a couple of them in mind. Like I've had like this vision. Remember we were laying in bed and like I was like, wait, I have to write something down. And so I was like trying to type, but I was like way like too tired to like type like fast enough. So I was like, fuck. And so I was like trying to type and like, and so I had like this idea and I was like, oh my God, this would be so great. And, like I was like really, really like into it. And, yeah, so I have like a few of them that are, like basically blankets that I want to convert into jackets. But like, I have like this kind of like vision of like what I would like for them to like look like, and,
what's the vision?
So a little bit more like I would like for it to have like some kind of like fluorescent in there. I don't know how I'm going to incorporate that. Maybe, I'm seeing it as like a vision, but it's like once you put it down, like sometimes it doesn't look as good. So we'll see. But yeah, I have like some really cool like blankets that I kind of want to like mess around with. And like I still have like a lot of quilts and some really cool stuff that like I feel like even if I explained it, like you would still be like, I don't know.
Well, with these jackets and stuff like that, because I noticed with your reworking of the denim jackets and stuff, you use a lot of phrases and patches and stuff like that. Would you ever bring that over to your one-of-one stuff?
No.
Why?
Because like I feel like my one-of-one stuff is like where I hold like my superpower, and like I start it and I finish it within like that, it's like it's the start to finish. So it's like with the reworking, it's like I feel like I don't like with the start and finish, like I feel like I have more worth, like it gives me like more worth to myself, like to be able to be like, look, I made this, like, and like, how many people do you know that could make that? So it's like for me, like that gives me like my self-worth of like, hey, I could do this and it looks really cool, and I just think that they're two totally different people and they're probably like cousins, and they just I just wouldn't want to bring them over.
You're saying Reworking and creating from start to finish are cousins?
So yes, they are cousins, but I'm saying like I wouldn't want to do like the phrasing on like my one of ones. Like I feel like my one of one is already like statement pieces where it's like you're just getting like this whole like statement kind of look. I think that if you added like phrasing and this and that, like I think it would kind of make it to where it's like too much. But I mean, you never know. You never know.
What about the SL?
Yeah.
So you would use like an SL patch on the back of a 1-in-1 and that'd be fine?
So with, remember the Letterman jacket? Like I had a really, really good time, like just doing like the Letterman jacket where it was like, I had like the vision of like, oh shit, like what is the Letterman? Like I remember finding them at the thrift store and being like, oh shit, like Letterman jackets usually symbolize to me when I was like in high school that this person's a jock. They're like into sports and this and that. And when I was in high school, like jocks and like punks, we didn't get along. So like putting these two things together where it was like, this is like a Letterman jacket and like I hand stitched it like very like crust style. Like I was like, that was like my fuck you guys. Like we're going to get along in this fucking jacket kind of thing. And like, I love that like now, like people are a little bit more accepting of like how people are. Like back then when we were in high school, like people weren't accepting of like you being a little bit different.
I did have a Letterman jacket.
Yeah.
For the chess club.
Wow.
So I did.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
So I mean,
do you still have it?
I probably do. You know, my mom says everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. We should. That would be a great idea, right? Oh my God, it has like a big king right on the side, so I'm sure we could do something crazy with it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we should pimp out your Letterman jacket that you usually wear.
Pimp My Jacket. Doesn't that sound? Doesn't it sound like a great show or a segment that we should do? That does bring me to something because we're gonna do like a little curveball. But I know we were talking a few weeks back. I don't know if we ever discussed it on the podcast, but we were trying to figure out some kind of option where people could come and bring the jacket they already have and say, hey, Claudia, pimp my jacket.
Yes, I did want to talk about that stuff too because it is one of those things where it's like a lot of people ask us about it. And like I have like so many different patches. Most of them are vintage patches that I've collected for a really long time. So it's like, it's just kind of like figuring out like, obviously like people really like the Virgin Mary and like the phrasing and stuff. And like we could totally like customize like the flannel if you bring it and all that kind of stuff. Or the jacket, like we could totally do that. But I also feel that there is people that they're like, I want to have something different. And they don't obviously like identify with having those things on their jacket. So it's like, for me, like, I know it's like kind of backwards to be like, yeah, let's make sure we're doing it all right before we even do it. And so it's kind of like, I would love to have like that option of like, look at all of our patches, even though I have like a shit ton of patches that you could pick from, and like how, and even then it's like, I don't know if I would want to do that because then you're just kind of like, well, what am I now again? A tool.
Yeah, but you're a tool recreating your own design that you popularize. So it's like, it's not.
But I also feel like the reason why like the things are like the reason why people are interested in them is because not because of how it is, but because where the placement of the things are and how they are maybe mismatched or how they're this or how it's that. So it's like someone could pick out all those patches and be like, I want these patches. And that's cool. Like you could have all these patches, but it's like there has to be like that creative freedom of like where they go or like how they're being placed or how, because it's like I feel like I know like people like that I'm working with like so many different kind of textiles to then create dimension in a garment. You know what I mean?
But when you commission a muralist or anything like that, do you give them certain pinpoint things that you need, or do you just commission them and say, I like your previous work, can you do something similar for me?
Well, I'm not a muralist.
Well, but it's a commission. So
yeah,
it's like, why does a commission have to be so custom?
Well, no, yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to be so custom. I feel like if you are coming to me to have like a commission, you understand what I'm doing. So it's like, it shouldn't be like something where you're like expecting for me to do like something like crazy. I do not do names. I do not do like branding or anything like that. Like I'm not into that kind of stuff. Like I'm not going to put like that kind of thing. Like I'm just not into that. But I do like getting to know someone, being like, oh, what would be like really cool for this person, you know, or them being like, hey, I'm working on something right now where the girl's like, I like fucking butterflies and fucking daisies or whatever. And then you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, how could I make that into like my own style of like creating something for this person that they're going to be like cool with?
So you really need only one session with somebody. You need like one talk with them. And then from that talk, then you can kind of create what you guys discussed, or just kind of got some inspiration from it. Yeah. Without it being anything custom, without it saying, oh, I want this here, or this patch, or this phrase. Yeah. Like, you know, I go to some, I'm not going to say which burger place, but there's a burger place I go to, and I hear them tell people all the time, like, they try to add stuff for the burger or take it away, and they're like, no, we don't do that. We don't add pickles. We don't have mustard. We don't have this. And they're very defined about it, and people just accept it, and they still come back because it's delicious. Yeah. So I think some kind of a similar thing where you just...
I think it's something that like I really struggled with, and it kind of like really gets under my skin like a lot is like, so on, like whenever we're open, right, like people walk in and they automatically see a sewing machine and they're like, oh, so you could do this on my stuff. And I'm like, we do have a customizable option. Okay. And so then they're like, oh, okay. So, so you could do it on like, you could do logos on my stuff. Right. And I'm like, we have a customizable option. So there's an option that you could pick from that's customizable. Like, we have options. Phrase. Yeah. Like, and so it's like, I feel like since our business is like, since our concept or idea or whatever the fuck you want to call it is so new, that people don't understand that there's people that like design and make stuff in the same kind of place. So then people are always like, so can you fix my pants? And I'm like, no. And it's like, it's kind of like, I don't know, like it really does get under my skin, because it's like, obviously, like I'm not just fucking here fixing people's shit.
It's equivalent to going into the art hub or any of those artist studios and then talking to the artist, and after you see all their work and everything, you ask if they could paint your house. Yeah. You know, and it's like, wait, yeah, I could paint your house, but I also do all this beautiful work. Like that makes me an artist. Like, you know, so I guess it's just, you know, just getting them to see it in that same light as a clothing artist.
Yeah. And I think that obviously, like, people, they don't, like, as much as like we want to be like aware of where we're at or what we're doing, like we're not, because we're like always on our fucking phones, and you're just like walking in and being like, so you fix shit here, and you're like, no, I don't fix stuff here. Like, I make everything here. And then they're like, oh, you know, so it's like, I make everything here. Like, and this is like the process. Like, that's why you're seeing that there's a table full of like fabric, and there's, you know, all these machines and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, it is like super annoying, but it's like, it's also like basically narrating our story. Like, this is totally different. Like, I don't know anywhere else in San Diego that has like a basically like a studio where you're seeing everything that's being made and like actually being put on the rack on the same day. Where it's so it's like, I understand that. Like, I understand that, like, you know, and it's like, for me, like, it's just a little ego damaging, you know, where you're like, you know, so I feel like that's probably where I'm kind of like having like that superpower of like feeling like with my one-of-ones that's like my superpower. Like, I could create like one like thing, you know, in this time frame and with this thing or whatever. And with the reworking, it's like anyone could rework anything.
Yeah, but reworking is not only takes less time, but it also basically keeps the bills paid, and it counts for a lot of the sales too. So you gotta right now have both, unless you just want to switch over to one-of-ones.
No, and I totally get like look, the reworking, not everyone could do it. You have to have an eye for like how you're doing it, like where you would want to do it. Like I've seen rework stuff and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But it looks very like grandma-ish, and it's very, so it's like you really have to have that eye for that. And I know that I have that eye for that. And it's like I do enjoy the reworking. I feel like it makes it a little bit more affordable for people, you know, and I enjoy it. It's like it does fall like right on like the same kind of thing as like who we are as like a brand, where it's like we really want to make sure that we're not creating more waste and that we're utilizing the things that we do have in the studio to create something. But my whole thing is like I really get off on like one of ones. Like that's been like my whole thing, where it's like I feel like in the last couple of maybe like months, like I've felt like that was going to really like set me apart from anyone that's like sewing or doing things like that. And so it's like for me, like to give myself self-worth, like I really enjoy doing the one-of-ones.
So this summer is going to be full of one-of-ones. It's going to be a summer of one-of-ones coming out left and right.
Yeah.
All the time. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we are here. How are we looking on time for what's next?
Yeah.
Right? We're going to make a little jump over to what's next. We're looking good.
Yeah.
All right. So what is next? What is next in the life of Claudia?
It's also your life too.
In our life. What's next? What's happening? Tell me.
So we got a lot of stuff happening. So we're actually working with a youth program, which is really, really cool. Like I feel like this is like my redemption of like going back and just kind of being like the person that I would have needed when I was like, you know, in high school. And so it's really, it really aligns with like who we are as like a brand and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be working with kids that are from like 7th grade to 12th grade. And my whole like mission for this is to like obviously give them a life skill that they could use. You know, I feel like a lot of people don't know how to sew on a button, and that's kind of really sad, because it's like I feel like our society has created like this monster of like just becoming like a consumer just to like consume, and like really like not having like this like idea of that these things aren't going to be here forever, you know. And it's really important for us to like understand that like we're super privileged in the sense that like we have an abundance of like clothes and abundance of all that kind of stuff, when in all reality it's like we should really make sure that like all these other resources like water, which we constantly always have like droughts and stuff, that we're really like preserving those kind of things. And with the production of like denim or even like just fabric production, fabric printing, all that, it wastes a lot of water. And like we really have to be like really mindful of like how we're planting these seeds in that next generation of people that are going to be consumers, as far as consumers, and also like people that are going to be aware of like where their products are coming from, you know. And I feel like for me, like I'm like very, very like excited to basically tell like the story of like how, you know, you can't be like this social justice freaking warrior without like really knowing where your clothes comes from. Like you can't be like, yeah, like we're here for the people, but you're wearing H&M. Like that's such a contradiction, because those people are the same people that you're trying to fight for, and those people get paid like $10 a month, and like these people, they don't have livable wages, but you're like fighting for like a cause that's like you're such a hypocrite with that. So,
but it's tough though to give people a little bit of room here, because I mean, most fashion is fast fashion.
Yeah.
So it's like you'd really have to just, like you said, there's not many Claudias or Sew Lokas out there. So it's hard to find brands that are not made in sweatshops or stuff like that. So how do you do that?
So I'm not saying like, oh, go out and get like a $300 jacket from someone that makes it. I'm not saying that. Like there's a lot of ways that you don't have to feed into that fast fashion kind of thing. A lot of people, what they do is like they resell clothes, you know, online, and they do all that, like whatever. You could go to a thrift store and you could buy your clothes there. it's like fueling like that fire of like every freaking week going into like H&M, Forever 21, Zara, all those kind of like places, every week going there, every 2 weeks going there, buying stuff, dumping your shit, doing it again and again and again and again. It's fueling that company to keep going. So it's like, if you're not fueling that, like, then they're not going to keep doing 52 freaking styles every freaking year. So it's like, you really have to be mindful of like, if you're going to be saying all these things about how you're like, oh, you're for people and this and that, like, you really have to make sure that you're dressing that part too. Because it's like, these people are like being taken advantage. Like, if you saw like their water supplies, you would be like, what the fuck? And this is like people just like me and you, you know? So it's like, you don't have to go out and support people that are, you know, that are making and sewing their own stuff. But it's like, it's about like really knowing where your clothes is coming from. And if these people are really being paid a livable wage, because even a lot of companies out in LA, like all these places that like produce and stuff like that, most of those people hire immigrants to like work their shops, where these people, they feel like, hey, you know what, if I speak up on this fucking like working condition, I'm gonna get fired, and this is the only job that I could get. So it's like, knowing all that kind of stuff is really important, because it's like, you know, like, we're not gonna have all these resources anymore, like with oils, with fucking all that kind of, like, with water. So it's like, why are we still so disconnected with where our clothes comes from?
And is this what you're going to be communicating to the kids that you're working with over the next few months?
Yeah, so giving them like, so for the first like 5 weeks, because it's a 10-week class, which is really, really cool, we're going to basically learn like little kind of like, you know, we're going to end up like sitting down like the first class, and we're going to sit down like in a circle, and we're going to basically like hand embroider. And I feel like hand embroidering is like a very therapeutic kind of like, hey, like, explore like this, you know, this basically like the loom and like fabric and like whatever design you want on here and all that kind of stuff, and explore that and have like a good time with it. And like really opening up to like the group and just letting them know like who I am as a person, like what my idea is, like what would they want to see with sewing, how do they see sewing, like, and really like having this conversation with like the next generation of people that are going to be fucking doing what we're doing, you know, and like really giving them like this resource to be able to be like, what do you want to see with it? Do you want to have like a fashion show? Do you want to, you know, what would you love to see with this project, you know? And so I'm really excited about it, because it's like, I've never done something like this before. I've always wanted to be a teacher, so here's my chance.
And you're talking directly to teenagers, you know,
yeah,
which is, you know, you can relate back to them when you were that age.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of basically tell them or let them know that sewing is a skill that can actually pay your bills.
Yeah.
Like, letting them know that we turn down so much business every single day of people that are looking for custom sewing, people that are looking for repairs of clothing, people that are looking to have prototypes built.
Yeah.
Like, I can show you emails and emails and emails. There's a market out there for it.
Yeah.
It's just that people don't have the skills to do it.
Exactly. And I talked about it on Sunday. Someone came in and they were like, hey, you know, like higher education, like, how does that look like? How does that, like, what do you feel about like the curriculum that is being taught there? I've never taken a class there, but I have a lot of friends that have. And I'm like, I just would never take a class there, because it's like, it's not an approachable situation. Like, it is very overwhelming. Like, you're talking about industry level, and it's like, no one is in, like, you're not going into like sewing because it's like you're gonna get into like this industry to like mass produce or do any of that stuff. It's like people are getting into sewing because they either want to start like a small like business that's like sewing related, they want to create like some kind of pattern, or they're just trying to like really start small, as opposed to like this gigantically over, like, it doesn't make sense for what's happening now, you know. So changing all those kind of like all that curriculum to where it's like, hey, how could we encourage people to want to keep doing this? And like, what does sewing look like now? Like, sewing does not look like 65 and over anymore. Sewing looks like, people that are not seeing what fits them anymore and tailoring it to how they feel is appropriate for their body, so.
And then you could also be an artist where your sewing machine is your tool.
Yeah, and like there's so many like great artists where it's like they're quilters and they're like quilting like these amazing like pieces of artwork where it's not the traditional quilting type, you have like people like the girl who hugs trees, like she does like embroidery like in a larger scale, smaller scale, like she does stuff like that. So it's like I feel like really having like this representation of like sewing doesn't have to look like that. Sewing could look like any way like that you would want it to look, there's no rules, like there's no like any of that kind of stuff. And I feel like in like the traditional route of like you go to school to like learn how to like sew and that this and that, like they make it to where it's like it's very like it's this way only. And to me it's like no, like I didn't go to a school for sewing. So for me, I'm like, I'm going to make it work however I feel that is going to work.
And it's just about making it seem fun. When you're talking with these kids over the next 10 weeks, it's like, even if they don't want to use it to pay bills or to be an artist, what if they just cared about their clothes? What if they just wanted to look different?
I feel like that's like my in of like, because it's like, you're going to see like what they're dressed like and all that. And for me, like, I really wanted to like have like a really cool outfit when I was in high school because that's everything. High school, And so how was I going to be able to like accomplish that? Like if my parents didn't have a lot of like money for that. So it was like, for me, it was like, well, I could make all my stuff. Like I could make my clothes. I could do all that kind of stuff. So it's like, I should do it. So it's like having that edge of like, you're never going to be able to see like this piece anywhere else. Like that's your edge. That's like your superpower. Like utilize that, and it's like you never know where that will take you. Like I never imagined like doing this like when I was like in high school, like I'm gonna open up a sewing studio, like I never imagined that. So like now being like here and like having that skill for a really long time and like being able to move from one place to another, like, and knowing that I would still be able to find work, that's a fucking skill. And the crazy thing is that you could find an electrician, a plumber, any of those kind of skills, like you could find them. Can you find someone that could sew?
No, because a long time ago in the 90s, we outsourced all of our sewing.
Yeah.
So it's like these new generations weren't brought up thinking that was a viable career path because it was so cheaply got elsewhere. So that's why.
But even then, like, yes, we outsourced it and everything, but it's like you can't outsource your prom dress. You have to like be like, you have like a month to make this prom dress. So it's like, obviously it's so difficult to find someone that could make something. So why aren't we paying them like for that skill? That's a skill. You can't do that.
I tried.
Yeah.
I've tried many times.
So it's like, why are we still devaluing these people? It's like you're seriously engineering something from like a one-dimensional piece into a three-dimensional body. So why aren't we paying people that?
Do you feel like you could change the narrative on sewing?
Yeah.
And get these people paid?
Yeah.
Damn. That's some good goals.
That's some big balls.
That's some big balls goals.
Yeah. Oh, shit. But I feel like, it's like I saw my parents, right? My dad he was mass producing. My mom was like, she made all of our like first communion dresses and like picture day dresses and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, my dad was mass production. My dad was like, I'm going to mass produce and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I get it for that. It was like something where it was like, cool. Like he gets paid doing like mass work. That's cool. But it's like, that doesn't work for us anymore, And so like now being able to be like, look, this is like this in like trying to create like a clothing brand in like a time where it's like there's a lot of waste already happening. Like, how do you like make sure that you are like meeting the needs of people, but also like making sure that you're giving these people like a fucking sense of like, hey, you know what, this I'm very like, I want something very unique, like I want it to be just for me, you know. And there, you can't do that like in a gigantic factory where you're mass producing for people, you know. And I feel like for us it's a little bit more of an intimate process of like, this is how we do things, this is how like we cut, this is how we sew it. So, you know, it worked back then, but now it does not work, you know. And really like being able to be like, look, like I've seen it with my friends where they're like, the curriculum doesn't work, we can't go out and find a job. If I reached out to any of like these schools and said, hey, I need a student, like I would love to hire someone to help me with like production, I am 110% sure that I wouldn't be able to find someone that could cut a perfect square or that could read a pattern or that any of those kind of things. And these are all like very simple things. Like people think that cutting a square is very simple, but it's not that simple.
But what are they learning in the sewing skills then? I mean, the sewing
It's
schools.
all, so from what I've, like you basically like create, I think it was like a shirt or like a jacket, but it takes you 6 weeks to do it or like a longer period of time to do it. But I was asking one of my friends, I was like, could you do it again? And she's like, no. And I'm like, that's the problem. It's like you should be working on really small projects that you're going to start and finish it within at least 1 or 2 days and then do it again. And then do it again. And that should be a test. Like, okay, show me how you did this by yourself. You know, because that's the only way that it's going to stick. If you're telling me like, hey, you have to cut out like this formal shirt and you're going to have to sew buttons and you're going to have to do this and you're going to have to do this and all this kind of stuff. And there's like insane like instructions for it. I'm never going to go into that class ever again. And that's what a lot of people like do. Like they love the idea of learning how to sew, but it's like, it's not fun and they're not engaged.
And the schools that they're going to are actually discouraging them.
Exactly.
You know, as opposed to kind of modernizing what sewing is now and what it looks like in the future, what it's going to look like in the future.
Exactly. I heard that they're going to do like a rework class. Like they're going to teach you how to rework stuff, which is cool. You know,
It should show you how to rework it, but then also how to post it on Instagram, because it's basically reworking is just one half of the process.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing they should teach you, because social media hasn't been around forever, but that is the one place where you could put your one of one product on there.
Yeah.
And you could have orders all over the world. I mean, so that's been the blessing for us. That's the only reason why we have this business model that exists. I mean, yes, we love foot traffic, people coming by, but it's the online orders and everything like that that have really sustained us.
Exactly. Yeah.
What? How are we doing? Sorry.
What the hell was that?
I literally had to use the bathroom for like the last 35 minutes, so my mind is not all. I'm kind of like, I'm all tense and shit.
You need a cup?
No. I got two right here. Yeah. Right.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have drank all that.
I know. Coffee, water, and now I'm feeling it. But
at least you're hydrated.
I was going to ask, how are we doing on time? Or 15? 50. Okay. Do you mind talking for a couple of seconds, like a minute to keep it going? Because I'm gonna pee my pants.
Go.
Okay. Cool. This is Solo, Claudia. Let's see.
I'm just gonna pretend you're here.
I know this is unprofessional, guys. I'm sorry, but I tried as long as I could.
I'm like this. So. Freaking Manny. He's like, I always fucking hold it in and look at him. I don't feel bad for him right now. Next time, wear Depends. Dude, I wore Depends once for an art show. Yeah.
What is that?
Diapers.
Oh. I was assuming that you were asking.
I know, I was just like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I wore diapers for like that all pink suit, because it's like I had like a corset on and then I had like something else to like cinch me, and I was like, I don't have anyone that could help me get out of this thing, so I'm just gonna wear diapers. But I did think like, hey, I'm going to like I'm gonna stop drinking water 6 hours before the show, and hopefully I don't have to go to the bathroom. So I didn't have to use them, but it was one of those things where I was like, shit. Like, if I have to go, I'm going to have to go. But I haven't used diapers in a long time, so I was very proud of myself.
I was laughing so hard and I peed a little, but then I was wearing a pad, so I was like, we're good.
You're like, we're good.
You want
We're
to say
good.
that embarrassing story?
Excuse?
I'm sorry.
She's like, you better cut that shit out.
Did you get to hear it on the headphones?
Yeah.
It's out there anyway. Now.
Got a microphone.
I didn't want her to be by herself,
Thank you.
so
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah.
I feel good. I feel great. I can go
That's
for another
good.
hour.
Great.
Just kidding. All right.
We were just sharing embarrassing diaper stories.
Diapers?
Yeah. Remember when I wore the diapers at the
Oh,
for the
I'm like, is everyone wearing diapers? Am I the only
Hey,
one?
yes.
Oh, when you had to wear, yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to use them, but
They were there just in case.
they were there just in case. And it was like so weird, like going into like the CVS and buying a pack and being like, oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this.
The Depends?
The Depends.
Well, they saw the gray hair and they might have just assumed.
They were like, she can't control it. Hey, when you get older, that
right.
happens.
It does. Sooner
See
than
what you
think.
got to look forward to?
So where were we? Where are we? What are we doing?
So you left all your shit back there.
We
No,
were just basically kind of wrapping it up.
Yeah.
We talked about the program that you're doing for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Every Thursday you'll be teaching a class from
Yeah.
9 to 11 a.m. Mm-hmm. And then we could basically kind of end it with what you're dropping this week.
Yeah. So we have a lot of like really cool stuff. We have the cool cats. But I would ideally like to do like at least 2 more jackets
This week.
this week. I know Thursday and Friday is going to be like really fucking hot. And then Saturday and Sunday and Monday and Tuesday is going to get really cold again. So
You want to drop it on a cold day.
yeah. Yeah.
Because this is a very, very warm
Yeah.
material.
Yeah. But I feel like I'm very conscious of like that it's San Diego and we don't ever wear heavy like jackets. So it's like just keeping that in mind, you know, because it's like I want for you to like be able to wear it like even when it's a little bit like warm, but it's not like too warm. Like yesterday I was wearing like my jacket and it wasn't like too cold, but it wasn't like too warm. So
Okay.
just finding a sweet
a
spot.
sweet spot.
Just finding a sweet spot.
But then also you're creating jackets just not for the San Diego climate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So keep that in mind too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're dropping those jackets this week.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else crazy happening this week that we should know before the podcast drops? We try to drop the podcast Wednesday at 8. That's going to be our new kind of consistent thing because
Mm-hmm.
we get it so fast, you know, from we get copy and steal and everything like that. So we'll have it today.
Mm-hmm.
We'll upload it. We'll have it on by tomorrow. So we're trying to get consistent with the releasing of it.
Yeah.
You can find it on YouTube, and then also we have it back on Apple and Spotify, so you can listen to it there.
Wow. Look at you.
You know, so there's multiple places.
You're not distracted anymore, huh?
I
With your
was-
friends in town.
My friend, no. Now I'm
Okay.
just totally hyper focused, and
Okay.
we'll see how long that lasts.
I hope a long time. I'm gonna crack the whip.
As long as it's edible lasts, but I don't know. Like, there's always more.
But yeah, I'm really excited because it's like we do have a lot of stuff happening. We're gonna have our she's not an intern. She's coming from Guatemala, so she's gonna be here in June. Norma, she's gonna be here. I'm really excited to like basically have her come into the shop, just see like how we basically conduct business, where it's like we're doing it online, we're doing it through like Instagram, because right now she only uses Facebook. So we really want for her to like see like what we're doing as far as like that kind of stuff, and like just kind of like getting her like really like involved with other like women business owners here. And yeah,
But also, she has a successful business where she's from too. So
exactly.
the whole goal is to learn from her too,
Exactly.
teaching
Yeah.
each other kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm really excited about that because she did say she was going to bring me some textiles from Guatemala.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, and they're all like, she says that they're big on like recycling like their older garments.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to see something like that to, you know, kind of like do like a collaboration together, that would be really, really cool. So
That would be cool.
I'm really excited to see her in person, to like get to talk to her, to kind of like just have like another person that also sews. Like I feel like that's always like a really like fun thing, like when I have like a friend that sews and like we could nerd out over that kind of stuff. Like I feel like I only have like a few people that sew, and like one of them is the only one that ever comes and visits me. So
Really?
yeah.
Who's that?
Ainara.
Oh, hey, what's up, Ainara?
I'm like, so we were talking about it the other day, and I was like, you know, you're like my only friend that actually sews that comes and hangs out with me. And she's like, yeah, you are too. And I'm like, wow, like we got really slim pickings, huh?
See, that's what I'm saying. Hopefully more in the next 10 years, there'll be a lot more people sewing.
Yeah.
That's got to be a goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is fun. But yeah.
Is that a good place to end this episode number 9, Skills Pay Bills?
Yeah, but you just finished.
Oh, well, I mean, I could tag that in. We could always talk about that on the next episode.
Right.
But just a quick recap. Yes, we did finish filming the short film, and now we're in the editing process. So when we film this in a couple of weeks, I'll have more information when it comes to that. But that's where we are right now with that. Scouting out film festivals over the summer and stuff like that, that once it's edited, we would want to put it in different things, and we want to basically get started on the next one.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Cool.
Cool?
Awesome.
Love everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone.
Where's the crowd? Where's the crowd?
You guys have been
Thank
great.
you guys.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
God.
Thank you for listening.
This has been the
Thank
best
you.
Oscars
Thank you.
ever.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, greatest moment in history, television ever.